Is this Money in the Bank gearing up to be the worst PLE of the Triple H era? Are we really looking at another PLE with screwy finishes? Will we see an immediate cash-in, either on Saturday night or on Monday Night Raw? And is the current issues with the product a result of having a two-night SummerSlam? All this and more on the Golden Shovel podcast, your weekly recap of all things WWE storytelling. Let's get into it. Always look at Ross for bobbing his head in the Golden Shovel podcast, and we are 2 days late, I think, by the time this goes out. Ross's PC decided to catch fire on Tuesday night when recording rather than do its job.
It wasn't ideal, but we try again.
Not to toot our own trumpets, but it was the best podcast that's ever been recorded in history, and this one is just a tribute.
Never, ever know it. This is just a tribute. You're absolutely right.
You've just jumped in and stole my line. I've set myself up for that. So the focus tonight is going to be Money in the Bank PLE. We were going to record predictions anyway and get them out Thursday night or Friday. So we will do a quick prediction show. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about some of the stories around that. And then we'll see where we look, how everything looks on Saturday night. So as always, I am joined by Daz and Roscoe.
Hopefully nothing can go wrong tonight.
Welcome to Cruise Control, where nothing can possibly go wrong.
Yeah.
The first time that's happened.
Right, we'll start with some of the big news. Big news topics, couple of releases. Now we did predict some future endeavours back in episode 1. R-Truth is gone. Carlito is gone. Valhalla is gone. Is this just business, Ross?
To an extent, like, who the hell cares about Valhalla? So we can just move on from her. Not a nice person. Doesn't have a nice husband. Fine, who cares? The other two, there's varying levels of sadness. I think you can make a case in an extent for releasing both of them, but I think we're all gonna really miss R-Truth just like being given some nonsense, and every 5 or 10 minutes, maybe once a week, once a fortnight, he just comes out and he just immediately just gets a few laughs. That's going to be a real shame. I hope that it's such an instance where they'll come back in like 6 months or a year and they'll renegotiate. More so with R-Truth. Carlito, he could maybe go somewhere else and do something, I don't know. But it's a shame, and with like the various murmurings we've heard, like if you've maybe seen our latest TikToks, like The Miz may be another one who maybe not getting his contract renewed. There's like talks about they want to negotiate down Roman Reigns' contract from his $15 million a year. There's a lot of cost cutting going here that ultimately this all must be business. But to me, this is maybe getting to the point where it's bad for business, and it's a real shame.
As we've talked at length throughout the week, and also on attempt 1 of recording this podcast about the situation, which, as Ross has said, has developed. We've slagged a little bit the Judgment Day backstage segments, and kind of believe the Judgment Day's probably ran its course. The breakups are coming, but we expected it probably earlier. Is Carlito just the first domino? And is the R-Truth release signalling something else with regards to things like house shows and fan favourites and crowd work? Because, okay, he's not going to deliver you a 5-star match in a Monday Night Raw, but as Ross says, he's going to give you 10 minutes of crowd entertainment.
Yeah, I think it is purely business. It's a little bit harder to take in the face of Slim Jim tables, etc. When you're bringing that kind of money in, why are we cutting guys that are comedic relief to break the show up? One of the things I've been critical about in this pod is the opening 20-30 minutes of the show is always the same. There's always a lot of talking, there's not an awful lot of wrestling. And I just think that guys like Truth help break that up. The Judgment Day piece has been long overdue. Carlito I won't really miss in terms, I don't think he will be much of a miss. I mean, I can't remember the last time he did a televised TV match, to be honest. I think what they're probably working towards is culling house shows. I think that's where this is headed, that they really only want the talent performing 3 nights a week maximum, I think is probably where they're at. And I get that because, like you say, Roman Reigns is on 15 million a year on his contract. Do you really want that guy wrestling a tag team match in a house show? Like, what's the benefit in that? But it also helps them to justify the ticket prices when they do come to
Yeah.
places. It's all business orientated. TKO aren't stupid. They make a fortune. They're trying to recoup the cost of the takeover by cutting guys like Truth, by trying to kind of negotiate down Roman Reigns' contract. It's just to help them recoup that money. And I know we did mention it again on the elusive podcast that will never see the light of day, as this gearing up towards a sale potentially to someone else in the future.
It's weird though,
The-
because like when you see other businesses and entertainment, sports entertainment, whatever you want to call it, like you get ones at the NFL where something like 50% of the revenues that come in go to players. You know, the staff that therefore make the league what it's supposed to be. It's like WWE have seen that and went, yeah, but we could get away with paying them like 20% of what we make and we'll just pocket the rest. And there will come a point where people will just get rightfully annoyed at that and just, even if they
You
paid
look
even
at-
less, or just go somewhere else they might feel valued. It's a tricky one.
There's a really interesting situation, as Roman Reigns is on 15 million, but they're saying his base is 5. So you're basically saying that 10 million is literally earned by him from merch, tickets, royalties for the games, etc. It'd be hard to negotiate down a base salary for The Rock's cousin if The Rock's on the board and the guy who is your biggest draw. I think you're right, Daz. I think at the very least US house shows will go. I think what you'll see is PLEs, an abundance of PLEs. I mean, in fairness, Raw and SmackDown have been must-watch TV for the vast majority of the last 2 or 3 years. The arenas are packed. You have seen them do the small stage for Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown, never mind the PLEs, and pack 16,000, 17,000 in an arena. And then I think you'll have that along with your 2 European tours, your 3 European tours a year, and maybe a South American tour or an Asian tour and an Australian tour. I think that's what we'll see. The only house shows you'll get will be on tour where they can justify $50 rather than $15 for a ticket, essentially. And then on the flip side, you look at the UFC salaries, and they are a pittance in comparison to what WWE tend to pay. That is based on the fact that you're working 300 out of 365 days a year historically. And the UFC would argue that you're only working 3 or 4 nights a year when you're actually on a show. They don't care about your training camp and stuff like that. So it would be interesting. I've said to you guys this week that I'm struggling watching this every night for the podcast versus watching it once a month in a PLE and catching up and about that. So I hope that the product doesn't suffer too much. We're going to get a look to it as we go through the stories, because I mentioned it in the pre-intro, but the doubling up at SummerSlam is causing issues, I think, with the current story. So with that being said, that is this week's update in the news, and we will come straight back with match number 1 for Saturday night. Well, there's no match order, but match number 1 for our predictions, which will be the women's Money in the Bank match. Match number 1 for us tonight in the predictions is the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. We will then go straight into Becky versus Lyra after that, and we'll finish the 2 men's matches in the card. Simple reason is the 2 men's matches for us are so closely tied together. The outcome of one's almost certainly going to affect the outcome of the other. Spoiler alert. Match number 1 might well be the most intriguing match of the night. Probably going to be match of the night, not just for the individuals, because I think this is, if you're excluding your champions, this is probably the 6 top people you have available for this match. But also there is so many storytelling elements to this. I've thoroughly enjoyed the women's wrestling since we started doing this full time, because the people that are coming through from NXT and the people that are on the roster are just, I think, better than we've ever seen in our time in the WWE. We don't want to go through the 6 individuals necessarily. I'll come to you first, Daz, and we might as well start with not your prediction, but talk to me about the mix of the fact that we've basically got 3 main roster rookies and 3 of the most experienced main roster people. Do you think there's a dynamic there that's going to play out on Saturday night?
I think so. Women's like I've enjoyed a lot of aspects of women's wrestling. I'm like, wow, look, this is the best it's ever been. And then it's, wow, look, there's Zelina Vega. And I'm like, damn.
We couldn't make
Like,
it.
I'm a bit hot and cold on women's wrestling right now. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, but I'm really gripped for this one. And the other women's match on the card, I think it is the best that they've got available across both of these matches. But we'll kick off with the women's Money in the Bank. I won't give you my predictions just now. I do think there's a really interesting element in it. Obviously, we had Roxanne and Julia booked in. The third entrant, which no doubt we will come to, who's recently just been called up. We could do a whole podcast on her
We did
herself.
really 2 days ago.
Yeah. I'm interested to see the dynamic, and I'm not sure how it's going to work because the 3 main roster vets, if you like, aren't all face or aren't all heel. So it's an interesting dynamic, and the same flips for the 3 rookies. They're not all the same. So I'm really interested to see how it plays out. It will be match of the night, in my opinion. I think the men's match might have a couple of better spots, but I think in terms of the intrigue, and I'll be honest, it's probably the match I can't call. Not that I won't call it, because I will. I'm a degenerate, but I do think it's the hardest match of the night to call.
I know what you've just said, but I'm at some point kind of half expecting a 3 versus 3 face off with the Alexa, Rhea, Naomi as your vets, and the other 3 as your kind of rookies. Whether that's at the start or partway through. Ross, just let's chop it a little bit. So let's go from 6 to 4. Julia's teased Friday night going after Zelina. Fingers crossed. No, we discussed in the Never to Be Seen podcast that there's an opportunity for Julia to move towards the women's title and elevate that on her way to the top, because she's going to the top. Daz rightly pointed out the risk as she picks that up, but there's no one for her to challenge her and keep it at that level.
Yeah.
Do you think that teases a way of softening us up to Julia not winning on Saturday night, but having a strong programme moving forward? On the flip side, since the split with Roxanne, which got them on the main roster and established them, Roxanne's playing a bit of a role with Judgment Day. That doesn't suggest to me strong booking for a potential world champion in the next 6 months. If they're thinking Money in the Bank.
I think so. I think that those are all pretty good takeaways. I think you could quite easily have a situation where someone like Julia will have a solid match, be absolutely nowhere near the briefcase, maybe ascends the ladder once type scenario, but you could quite easily spin it off where someone like Roxanne Perez has a moment that costs her, or along those lines, and then that's where you can spin a story off when Julia gets that belt. Who's the next person that comes after is someone like Roxanne. That could work. I think this match is just really interesting because you can kind of make a case, and you may be right, you may be wrong, as his opinion's right, about that all 6 of these women could conceivably carry this briefcase for a bit for various different reasons. Though I do think, I think Julia going after that title just makes sense for her, makes sense for that title. And ultimately, there's maybe someone more obvious in there that we'll speak about that could be the best choice.
If you turn around and says to me that the 6 women in that match, and I'm pointing here because I've got another screen, the 6 women in this match would all be a world champion in the next 3 years at some point, you couldn't argue that fact. That's the level these women are at. And obviously, Alexa, Naomi, Rhea have all been world champions. Julia and Stephanie have held the NXT title. I think so did Roxanne, which that's the level we're dealing with. So we've kind of chopped and said that Julia and Roxanne tend to have a programme that's going elsewhere, which is great. That we talk about the long-term book, and they have storylines with payoffs that takes Roxanne towards Liv Morgan, which is a great feud for elevating someone, because Liv Morgan's, if you're saying these are 6 of the top people that are available in the match, Liv would be on that if she hadn't been away filming a movie. Julia, I think, is phenomenal. But if we move on to Rhea Ripley, who is a fan favourite here, especially at the TNF podcast, we were all high on her when she made her debut in the Mae Young Classic before she changed her look. Is it fair to say that she doesn't need it and it would be a mistake, the briefcase going on her?
I would agree that she doesn't need it. I definitely agree that she doesn't need it. I don't think from a business perspective it could be a mistake because
Yes.
I don't really think whoever she's chasing prints money. I just don't really know. This is the issue we've got right now is that Rhea Ripley is arguably the best in the business right now. That like you'd be hard pushed to make a case against it. She doesn't have the world title, so you now need to book her in a way that she doesn't win the briefcase for a chance at that title.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to book her in that manner because she's guaranteed a title shot probably within the next 6 months anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But they have been teasing her and Io. But they've kind of cooled it off a wee bit and turned them into friends for the time being. So I do believe that Rhea's probably not going to be the one to take the briefcase. Mm-hmm.
And very aware that we've told editor Craig, who is listening, this podcast wouldn't last all night and we wouldn't get through all 6 people. We're going to do that anyway. We're going to spoil a little bit when it comes to Naomi because we're going to ask the similar question of Rhea Ripley. Ross, yes or no? If Rhea does take the briefcase, does it make more sense for her to use that to go after Tiffany and freshen up SmackDown and allow somebody else to freshen up the Raw Women's division?
That could work. That could work. You've got some options, I think, with a few of these different ones, but I don't think I'd hate to see that. I think that would be a good program.
The issue we've been discussing with Raw is the only path is Rhea versus Io.
Yeah, and you would assume if that's going to happen, that's a Mania match, right?
That allows that to go somewhere else. It would protect Tiffy. She'd lose it to somebody who is the best in the business. That being said, that leaves a void behind on Monday Night Raw. For us, 6 weeks ago, we predicted somebody being a world champion in the next 18 months. Said person, I think, fills that void immediately. We did wax lyrical about her for a long time. We spent a long time in Tuesday trying not to talk about her in the NXT segment, save for the Monday Night Raw.
And we just spoke about her through anyway.
Oh my fucking God, is Stephanie Vaquer just phenomenal. Not just in the ring, but the presentation, the pyro, the entrance. I'm always weary of rushing people when it comes to the main roster. You know, we've seen it when, particularly under Vince, when he got hyped about someone, put a briefcase on them and then didn't know what to do. Think Baron Corbin, Austin Theory, Otis. You don't want to get it wrong. It's much better. I would say it's better for Stephanie Vaquer to have 8, 9, 10, 12 months of just really good wrestling matches and then be undeniable. Dad, we've used that word a lot in the last few weeks, but is Stephanie Vaquer undeniable now after having 1 week as a full-time main roster star?
This is the trouble I have with this match, is that my head says it has to be a heel. My head tells me that it has to be a heel. But my brain's saying to me, TKO are all business, they're all money, and there's a rocket in the match. I'm going to be so shocked if they don't strap the briefcase to Steph because she's so over. I don't know. If you were asking me who the bookie's favourite is, I think it's Steph, and it's only because of the hype, the major push she's getting. I do agree. I think personally it would be too early because I think the decision to call her up was also rushed because I don't think they expected her to be this over this early.
Aye.
So I think there's an element of have they actually planned out what a long-term booking is? I don't think the answer is there.
Ross, if I come back to you on that, we actually praised the sort of hybrid booking on the ever elusive, never to be seen Tuesday night podcast, where they're doing this job of bringing NXT stars into Raw and SmackDown for a couple of matches to promote shows, particularly when about the PLEs. We praised it last week's podcast by saying it seems to be working really, really well. We saw Trick Williams a few months ago, and now He's in a program as a world champion. We saw it with Javon Evans last week.
Yeah.
We saw it with Steph, Julia, and Roxanne working both shows. But is this just one of the things where we've always asked the question, we said that about Julia as a potential US champion, what would be next? Because it's the last time I saw this, fun enough, would have been Rhea Ripley, where you're like, the second she steps foot on Monday Night Raw or SmackDown, she has to be in the world title picture. Is that the level we're at here with Stephanie Vaquer?
We're pretty close. I think that if she wins it, no one is going to complain. At least in the short term, you might get into a situation like Daz alluded to, where like they maybe say they put the briefcase on, and they're like, oh wait, we haven't really thought past July, and they don't really know.
The way and the how.
Yeah. And they've just saw a moment and just thought that's the one that writes the headlines all over the internet the second that she grabs it. It might be best for her to not win it. It's so tough. I've thought this back and forth, like in the lead up to doing this, that I can't pick a winner. I'm just gonna have to spit a name out at some point and just hope, because it's not like the men's match, which we'll get there. There's less obvious options. You can pick like at least 4 of these, and you're like, right, they need to win it. And the other 2, you're like, oh, they could win it. I can't make up my mind, man. I know that Daz is going for La Primera here, which I think that's. Oh, he's not. Oh,
he's not. So if I sum up the last 2 names, then Alexa Bliss. I think the period of time between the Rumble and her eventual sort of full-time return was too long for her to win this match. I don't think she had enough time back. However, she would be a safe pair of hands. She is arguably the best promo in the women's division. When she's at her peak, she is phenomenal on the mic. She's phenomenal in the ring. It would allow her to play an interesting role, whether she moves back towards the goddess type presentation and gimmick, or whether she does dive back towards the Wyatt. It worked both ways. She's definitely the type of person that could have this for the full 12 months or the 14, depending on how they decide to book this. So I would like to see Alexa win it. I think I'd be comfortable with that. I think that's a type of winner that protects the rest of the people in the match. My worry is, and I've actually replied to Santi Zap's tweet earlier asking for, predictions, or would you not want to see Money in the Bank? And the one thing I'm worried about is, and I said in the pre-intro, is another PLE of screwy finishes, because could we see the Wyatt 6 assisting Alexa if she does become more involved with that? I personally think they've distanced from that in the last few weeks. The other person, and I think this is the most intriguing option, is Naomi. We'll get to predictions in a minute. I had Naomi pegged as winner of this match up until Friday. I was convinced that Naomi was the right person to win the briefcase, because I thought she was the right person to take it from Tiffy and then push the Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill through to the next level. I feel like they've cooled a little bit in Jade Cargill. They had her in the title match, they've had it booked strong, and then the bookings went back a little bit. And I feel like that feud, or the feuds, have been, the 50-50 booking's been too much. Like, you haven't allowed somebody to step above, put their head above the parapet and say, this is the person we're going to hitch our wagon to. That being said, about the Rhea Ripley situation, I think Naomi winning it and moving to Raw to shake that division up is the right move, because I just don't see it. Up until the Stephanie Vaquer situation, I did not see past Rhea versus Io, which we've seen a lot in the last 6 months. So I didn't have this as a kind of any of the 6 can win it until I was planning in my head what I was going to talk about the night, and went, shit, right, okay, you probably pull out Roxanne and Julia and say they've teased them in other programs, but the other 4, I wouldn't say it's a toss up, but it could be any one of the 4.
Yeah, it's hard.
I think we're at the stage now. Predictions. Daz, who have you got and why?
I'm similar to you in the sense that in the build up to this, I've been all about Naomi, and I feel like Naomi would be a good pick to win it. I'm going left field. Roxanne Perez, I think, is going to win it. And
Ooh, I like it.
the reason being, I think it's going to help the breakdown of the Judgment Day. It's going to sway Liv Morgan's out the title picture. I think it's going to sway the likes of Dom and Finn, etc., towards her and help towards that breakup. I feel like she's been protected for that reason. I feel like that's why she's not head in ring. I feel like they've got a plan for Roxanne. I think she was the one that was always getting called up.
Mm.
I feel like they've had a long-term booking for Roxanne for a while, and I think they're gonna cash it. I think it's going to be Roxanne. That's my pick.
I like that fantasy booking.
Ross, do you agree with us? Or are you going to go somewhere else?
You're really making me choose. Do you know what? We've spoke a lot about business tonight. I think it's going to be business. La Primera is going to ascend that ladder and she's grabbing that briefcase. And I don't know if they know what the hell they're going to do with it. And to be quite honest, I don't even know if I care. I think I just want to see it. So I'll go with her.
But believe it or not, I was over here to check the previous winners of the women's, because I actually thought that Alexa, Rhea, and Naomi had all won it, and actually only Alexa's won it. I don't know why I thought that. I'm not going to pick Stephanie Vaquer because I just think she should win the world title by having really good wrestling matches for the next few months and then be undeniable. I really want to pick Naomi and move her to Raw. And I really want to pick Rhea Ripley and move her to SmackDown, because I think both divisions just need a wee bit of a shake-up. But they're not going to give up on this Bianca Belair, Jade Cargill, Naomi story paying off, which means they all have to stay in the same brand, I think, for now. I'm going to go left field. I think this is more left field. I'm going to take Alexa Bliss.
Okay.
I don't know why. I think it's because I want to pick Naomi, but the fact that they had Bianca come out on Friday night on SmackDown, I know it was in their hometown, and do a promo means that they're obviously going to try and finish that feud off somewhere. Is that with Naomi as a world champion? Or maybe it is with Naomi as a world champion.
Well, you
Nah,
made your pick now.
I'm sticking to my guns. Naomi winning the briefcase on Saturday night. I'm sticking with that. Say it for weeks. Naomi wins the briefcase. We'll cut the last 10 seconds.
No.
If Alexa wins, it'll be raging. No, the people can see it. They'll have to finish that feud. They're obviously going to try and do that. Maybe they do that when Naomi's a champion. So, I mean, that's really interesting, because we've went 3 different options, and even then, we were all discussing 4th and 5th options as well.
I know.
And it's quite sad that we're all saying that it's probably not going to be Julia, but that's because they've already teased her next story. So we've got 1 for La Primera, 1 for Naomi, and 1 for Roxanne Perez. Becky versus Lyra. Daz, straight to you in this one. Hell of a story, to be honest. Lyra has been elevated to levels that are almost unexpected, no matter how good she is in the ring. You've loved Becky's work building this feud out of the ring, the TV, podcast, sort of social media appearances. Give me a summary of what's happened in the last 8-9 weeks, and not without spoiling your prediction, just what you think's happening going into the weekend.
Yeah, I think the last 8 or 9 weeks have been the marker for Lyra, to go and prove that she is a main roster talent, arguably potentially a main event talent. I think is what she's been trying to prove over the last 8 or 9 weeks. In-ring ability, I don't think there's ever been a question mark. I think she's safe, competent in the ring. I don't think there's ever been a question mark about that. But I think the presentation is really important on the main roster. And I also think that the mic work has to be there if you're going to carry a championship. I think the Intercontinental is the workhorse championship. It's the right belt for her. I think she's been really, really strong with it. I would have liked to have seen her potentially defend it a couple more times, like just on Raw, just open it up to somebody, come and have a go. But the programme with Becky's been really good. I won't spoil my prediction for this match, but I think it's got the possibility to steal the show, if I'm honest.
Again, a bit like the women's ladder match, it's the storytelling that can help steal the show as much as the actual in-ring work, because they two can go, but they're telling an amazing story, and that's what we're about here. This podcast is suspending belief in the reality of WWE, what can happen, how it can happen. Ross, we've discussed quite a lot in the last few weeks that this is an easy feud for Lyra.
Mm.
You know, okay, going up against Becky and on the mic and in the ring is tough for Emdy because she is good. She can get away with more than some people, because when you're a top star in a division or a big company, you can say and get away with things that other people can't. But it's an easy feud in that they've known each other for a long time. They're both Irish. It's a familiar language and style and presentation and whatever else in the ring. You're talking to somebody that comes to the same place as you in a foreign country. There's a level of comfort there. So is this a case of Lyra having the opportunity to establish herself and move on to the next programme? What could be next for Lyra?
That's the tricky bit that we've been really struggling to figure out ourselves, isn't it? Because we are of the opinion that this has maybe just gone on a week or two too long, and they do need to sort of shake hands and move on. I think it depends on how the match finishes, in all honesty. Like, if if she goes over, she's beat Becky Hogan on a PLE.
What you said there about the maybe just a week or two too long. We discussed at length last week about the just too many PLEs and too short a time frame. But also alluding to it, and I'll mess with my only point I make on the match before we go predictions, is the whole 2-night SummerSlam. They're having to fill 12 to 14 matches potentially. I guess it's going to be 2 3-hour nights, so call it 10 to 13 matches roughly, versus maybe 7 or 8 if it was a 4-hour show. So there is a level of holding back in certain rivalries, because we're expecting Solo versus Fatu, probably, and we're expecting something with Roman and possibly Seth, because even though that could be a Mania feud, it's a 2-night show in New York, so it's going to be huge. We're expecting Becky and Bayley, which may play into a factor of predictions here. I said this in that tweet. I'll keep referencing it. I'm hoping it appears in his video somehow, but this is another match. We mentioned Money in the Bank. Daz mentioned the Judgment Day and Roxanne Perez. I mentioned Y6 with Alexa Bliss, possibly. This is another match that could have
Bayley coming in,
a return and a screwy finish.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
So I just don't want, because we're going to see the same thing for 4 matches again, as we did at Backlash.
Yeah, and
we were right. We were right at Backlash.
There was
5 matches and there was 5 screwy finishes.
That was the frustrating thing.
I'll go first in my prediction this time, because I went last in the last one. This is actually, for me, despite the fact that I flip-flopped in the last one, this is my hardest prediction, because I feel like if Becky does lose this match, it has to be a screwy finish. And Becky doesn't need protection, but if Becky loses, you're expecting the Bayley return. But I just think that would kill all the momentum that Lyra's built up. To me, this match needs a clean, conclusive finish.
It does.
And I think it needs to be a clean, conclusive finish with Lyra retaining.
Okay.
Because I just think that Becky doesn't need it. She'll have a SummerSlam match with Bayley. That could be a non-title match and still be huge. Lyra, her job now for me is to retain this title and keep it at this level where you're saying that is the marker for new people and not non-main event talent, but people who aren't in the main event at that time. Make it a title that's worth chasing. Even if you are a main event talent, you're willing to go and fight Lyra Valkyria and challenge for that title. So for me, it's Lyra. Ross?
I think that the SummerSlam Becky versus Bailey match will happen. I think it will be huge, but I think it will be because Becky is Becky one belt, certainly, and I think Becky might win this. And I can't really put my finger on why. I do think Bailey could be involved on Saturday night. I think you could have a situation where Becky does somehow win, gets the clean win, whatever, and at the end her music hits and there's a stare down or a beat down or something. But yeah, I think Lyra could be okay with taking a loss if the match is good and she's showcased. We've said that before. You know, you can have these title matches, but if you look good in the match, you can mitigate the damage of the L. I'm going to go Becky. I think she might win.
What do you think, when you're doing your prediction, if you answer this, do you think what Ross is saying there about she's not sure why it's Becky is because Lyra has looked so strong in this feud that it would be almost too clean. Like, it's been 8 weeks of Becky looking not buried, because you can't bury Becky Lynch, but almost looking weak. So she has to get something in at some point. I think that plays into the predictions here.
This is the easiest match of the night for me to make my prediction on, I think.
I like it.
And
it's confidence.
And that'll come back and bite me, no doubt. But I cannot see past the Becky one. The reason being, we keep talking about Becky and Bailey at SummerSlam. We keep putting that out there as if there isn't a women's only pay-per-view set to happen before it. So
yeah, true.
I think it's going to, one of two things will happen post this match. I think Becky wins the belt, and one of two things will happen. You will either have the final match between the two at Evolution. They will go one more time, and Bailey will be involved. Or, depending on the timeline, because there is a bit of a gap from now to Evolution, it'll be a triple threat for the title at Evolution or at SummerSlam. I can't see Becky lying down and taking the door. I just don't see it, because she's let her kill her in promos for like 7 weeks in a row. She's let her do it in promos. The payoff for Becky has to come. She's not come off maternity to run a 12-week promo and lose every time she's in the ring. I just...
A good point.
I can't see past her taking the title. I also think if they want to sell tickets for Evolution, the big names need to hold big belts. And there is no bigger draw. There is no bigger draw than Becky Lynch, unfortunately.
I actually do not disagree with anything you said at all. And that's why I said it was the hardest match, one of the hardest matches for me to predict tonight, because I mean, the stipulation is there that if Becky loses, she can't challenge it for as long as Lyra's champ. If Lyra loses, she's got to raise Lynch's hand and acknowledge there's a better woman. To me, just the act of having to do that, almost, there's a risk that it kills the momentum of Lyra. That's like, Becky doesn't need a woman.
Perfect timing for Bailey. It's perfect timing for Bailey. She's going to raise the hand. It's perfect. It does work. But
it does work, and I wouldn't be mad at it. I just hope it doesn't kill Lyra. I guess what you're saying is right, that she can always win it back at Evolution. So that, I don't disagree. And I can't disagree with it. It's one of the ones where it's a complete toss-up. Lyra's been booked so strong, she probably can get away with the loss, as long as what happens next keeps her strong.
Yeah, definitely.
And I think that's as simple. So I'm down to one on that one. Which is good, because the last time we think we will pick the same predictions. Just about, so it's good to have some differences, by and large, apart from you picking Randy Orton for some reason.
You just get a gut feeling sometimes, you know.
Dirty casual.
Gut feeling. I think that was a dodgy curry the night before.
It might have been, to be fair.
Men's Money in the Bank. Now, I'll kick off. I think we just have to summarise this and get to the two big stories that we think they're there, because we don't want to do all six of them. I'm just going to start by saying I fucking love Penta, and I have done since he came in. His music's now a ringtone. I've just decided I was going to bite the bullet and have that right, because I think again, he looks like a superstar at all times. He can go in the ring. The guy learned English purely for WWE. I know he learned a few years ago, but that's why he learned English, was so he could wrestle in America. The presentation, the entrance music, the crowd are so behind him. He's amazing. He's a world champion. I said today in the WhatsApp chat, and I'll say in the podcast, that when Penta wins the WWE Championship, I will sit and do a full podcast, a fucking mask on and full face paint, Penta face paint. I am so into whatever they're selling. It's the same with Stephanie Vaquer. They've done whatever they've done as a presentation of these new people. I have just bought massive into. With that being said, he's not going to take the briefcase Saturday night. It's just not the time. It's just not the time. I don't think Penta can win it because of that. I think Solo, we've said already tonight, it's Solo Fatu at SummerSlam. You'd think that tease is coming. I don't know why Andrade's in the match, so we'll just skip over Andrade. That leaves us with
Andrade
three.
Doesn't actually know why he's in the match either, I suspect.
He won a Slim Jim competition.
Aye. Ross, we'll come to you first. El Grande Americano. Surely this story comes to head this weekend with him pulling double duty.
Well, there's always the possibility, right, that Chad Gable, his friend, his mentor, gets injured and he has to go to the hospital to go and support him, and then therefore he's not able to be in this match, and you get a CM Punk, for example, or something bizarre might happen. You could have a storyline where Grande Americano ascends and gets the briefcase, and then you have to work out what the hell to do if Chad Gable's kicking about. I don't know. I still find it funny. I still think this will go. I think I'm in disagreement. I think this story will still go because it is just genuinely stupidly funny, and it hasn't got old for me yet. I like
it's stupidly fun. It's stupid and funny until it involves a world title.
But even then, that's funny because it's meant to be fun.
You've got too many real top superstars to have the comedy act. We've just bagged our truth.
It is a concern.
A loaded mask.
But no, it'd be really funny, man. It'd be really funny.
Daz, do you think we've been unfair quickly writing off 4 folk in a 6-man match? Also, Seth Rollins, LA Knight situation, for me personally, as well as if you think it's harsh writing off 4 people, we're not in a situation where we just need to get Seth Rollins versus CM Punk either done and out of the way, or split them up far enough apart so they can do it at the right time. Because for me, this, as we mentioned, the Monday Night Raw thing, it's the same opening 20 minutes every week. Mm-hmm. It's just been dragged out.
Yes, a couple of quick points. I won't be present on the pod where you do the Penta thing. I don't want to be there for that. I don't want any part in that. And also, Grande Americano has become a bin fire. It's went stale so quick. I'm really, really bored of it. I mean, I do think it comes to a head this weekend. I think he's unmasked during this match, probably by Penta. Luchador versus Luchador. Yeah. Get a mask off. I think that's probably what's coming. A couple of things. LA Knight is probably similar to Rhea Ripley, that he doesn't need the briefcase because he is so over. Although he's the perfect blueprint for someone to hold the briefcase. Fits the persona, the character. I think he would be great at carrying it. But it's impossible to see past CM Punk. Seth Rollins. It's impossible to see past him just based on where his stable is right now. But I also think that's a curveball. I also think that's the point, that it's built that way. I do think we're going to get Seth and CM Punk out the way because CM Punk's due to take some time off. And I think this is the match with the screwy finish. And I feel like it's going to be Punk who's going to screw Seth Rollins. It's just a feeling I've got. I'm not going to tell you who I think wins the match yet, but that these two need to be put in a program quickly, or you run the risk of either not being the right fit at the time they try and do it.
The time you pull the trigger, if you pull the trigger on the right person at the wrong time, that can kill everything. We spoke to Ads earlier, try to drag him in for a guest pick spot tonight. He's certainly going with Roman costing Seth. I hope it's not Roman, because I still think it's too early. If that's the SummerSlam, even for SummerSlam, that gives us this whole issue of dragging out something for 8 weeks, because Roman won't turn up every Monday night, and then you'll still have Seth Rollins fighting with Sami and Punk and Jay and just and Gunther now that it's just messy, and it's frustrating. It's too messy, that situation in Monday Night Raw for my liking. Are we ready to go to predictions? Because what I wanted to say next is going to give away my prediction. So, Ross, you can go first this time. Give us the who and the why, and maybe even the why not for somebody else, because I've certainly got a why not for somebody else.
I feel like we've done a really good job of ruling out, based on we think Solo's going somewhere. We don't know why Andrade's in there. We've done a good job of kind of working that out. I am in agreement with Daz in that I am struggling to look past Seth Rollins, and I think he just would be really, really good chasing with that. His mic work is exceptional, so chuck a briefcase on him. You can then maybe find a way of finagling a title or two onto this big slabs of meat that follow him around. There's ways that can work. It's a shame that you're going to have LA Knight again in one of these big matches, when you know if you put something like this on him, he's fantastic, but it just doesn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right for him to have it, even though you would be very, very good with it. So for me,
Seth.
I think it's Seth. Yeah, I really do.
I'll jump in next, and we'll save Daz's to last this time. I'm in agreement that you cannot look past Seth Rollins, and for that reason, I'm not picking him. I think it's a curveball. I think it's see my reason. See if it's Seth, and I'm going to contradict myself in 5 minutes' time. We do the main event. He's cashing in on Saturday night or Monday night. It's not going to wait, and I'm picking somebody else and hope, because I'm fed up with every year it feels really have to get rid of a briefcase really early.
Yeah,
and that's a problem for me. We're predicting when this feud could potentially end up. I'm going to pick somebody that might not be the right person to be the champion this year before Mania, but might be a good person for next summer, especially if we do this extended bit, because we've talked about the fact that Money in the Bank's later, and we might have a 14-month window rather than a 12-month window because it's not been confirmed.
that sounds like he's picking a Grande Americano. I can feel it.
The issue I have with Seth is he's going to have 2 big slabs of meat help him win the match, then 2 big slabs of meat help him cash it in, and I just think that's boring. It's been done. We've mentioned that this is just a bloodline on Raw, essentially. It's the same booking. It's the same booking as we've done with Evolution. It's like it doesn't. It's not boring, but it's risky being boring. I feel as though I need to see the shake up in the draft. I need to see people move apart to help me be clear. I wanted to be Penta, but I've said already why I can't pick him, because I just don't think it's the right time for Penta. I'm going to go LA Knight, and it is more in hope than anything else, but also I think he is the perfect briefcase holder. The promo, he's the best promo in the men's division, just about, especially in terms of that old school feel to it. He's shown he can do the in-ring work. I know he's an older guy, but he's still relatively new to the roster, a few years, but we thought he was undeniable in Money in the Bank London. That was 2 years ago, and he's still like. How many people have been able to do that without being a world champion or without being the best wrestler in the world? Have that level of
that's true.
overness for 2-3 years and never go stale. I think this feels to me a bit like the Damien Priest one. It's you've paid your dues, you've done your job, you've carried the mid card title. We put it back on you because Shinsuke fucking ruined it. You took it back to the next level. You've been part of the mission of the job to put the next big star and fat it over with that title. I just think this is just one of the ones where it's time for LA Knight. So as much as Seth Rollins will be world champion before LA Knight is, but not by cash in. So I'm taking LA Knight. Daz, are you going to pick a third, or are we going to join one of the sides?
We are going to go 1 for 1 here.
Ooh.
I am picking someone for similar reasons. I think it's someone who has put in their time, they've paid their dues. I also don't think this person is going to be a quick cash in. I think this person can carry the briefcase for a little bit longer. I'm similar to you in terms of brand. I don't think this person is likely to cash in and win while Cena is champion. I'm going to go Solo Sikoa. And
Interesting.
the reason being, he's put a lot of work in. He waited a long time through that bloodline. I mean, just about everybody had a title. Do you know what I mean? He's put a lot of work in. He's shown that, I mean, he went in like a crazy losing streak, right? But if you actually look at the work in ring, I think he's shown he can hang with top talent. He just needs the proper run. And I think that putting the briefcase on him allows you to build him slowly towards that. The only issue I've got is he would potentially have to go over against Fatu, or it ends in no contest at SummerSlam.
Yeah.
Is the only issue. And I think no contest is probably the way it'll go. It'll probably end in like a double count out, or a disqualification or something. I don't think it's going to be a clean finish in that match regardless. So I'm going to go with my gut, and it's going to be Solo Sikoa.
I think that's bold, but I don't disagree with the logic. I think we're all seeing this. I think this is really interesting for me, because I don't disagree with any points that you guys have both made. I think if they're going to pull the trigger quickly, it will be Seth.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the two guys we've picked as, no, let's try and look at this for an 8-month, 10-month briefcase run.
Yeah.
Because the best cash in my memory from recent times, the two of the best have arguably been the two that happened at Mania, Seth and Damian Priest, where you're not expecting it and it happens. You're like, wow. Whereas we will spend Saturday night and potentially Monday night
in fear,
expecting a cash in, especially if Seth's holding the briefcase. So that's now 2 Money in the Banks and 1-1-1 in picks. So we'll all be watching with intriguing Saturday night to see. No doubt the three of us will be fucking wrong, let's be honest.
Watch Daz go 2 for 2 and get Becky Hogan wrong.
The main event, I think we can keep this short, because the tag match has been confirmed as the main event.
Oh, no, I know it will main event the show. Is it really the main event?
Let me rephrase that. The last match in the card is Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso versus John Cena and Logan Paul. We discussed this on the Fucked Up Tuesday podcast, that this is just ruining my weekends. It's not ruining wrestling. We're all waiting for Cena to turn face. Just give us the face run and the paybacks and the callbacks and everything else for the last 25 years. Just give us what we want. I know it's a character-driven thing, but nobody's really buying it. John Cena isn't a bad guy. He's never been a bad guy. It's not working. Okay, if he did genuinely hand Logan Paul the World Heavyweight title, then yes, fine, I will hate him. But I also won't hate him, because Logan Paul will be a world champion. I think at some point he will have earned it. Daz, coming to you. Is there any chance that this match ends clean?
It's impossible. There's no clean pin. The reason being, the only way it's a clean pin is if Cody and Jey win, and I don't see it.
And Logan eats it.
Logan has to eat the pin.
Aye.
I mean, unless you have Cody pin John, where's the fun in that, right? So I'll be honest, a couple of angles this can go. It can go Seth Rollins wins it, because the Money in the Bank match should be after this for this reason solely, because if Seth wins it, you spend the whole main event waiting on Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker.
Yeah, you're watching the
spend the whole main event waiting, right? And you all know it's not going to be John. That's not going to happen. It's going to have to be Jey, right? They're not going to take the title off John, because it kills his entire retirement run. right? So you know that. So I feel like it's Gunter if it's going to be anybody. If it's outside interference,
Mm-hmm.
Gunter's a guy that's next in line for a title match on a Bold Raw for whatever reason, and he's not been doing in-ring work recently. He's been in Jay's head, basically, talking to him. I don't know. I kind of feel like there's a double switch coming. And I'll be honest, I feel like Logan might actually turn on John. I'll be honest. I'm not really sure where it's headed at. I think it's such an ass match that it doesn't do anything for either champion. It doesn't further the story in any way unless John pins Cody. It does nothing for the story unless John puts Cody in.
I think that's a strong prediction. Not a strong prediction, a strong comment on the story. I'm in 100% agreement that unless we have almost a double turn, this match is completely pointless. It's another one of these matches that's dragging out. Obviously, I would imagine that we're getting Cody versus John at SummerSlam. I don't think Cody should go over if that's the case. I think it's far too early.
Yeah.
But
see, just before you say it, right, because there is one small piece of fantasy in me here, right?
I've got two bits of fantasy booking I'm like
that really, really wants this to be the case.
Is it the same as mine? Please don't say the same.
Possibly. If I'll give you I'll dangle it out there, and if it is, I'll let you do it. Right? It was referenced in Cody Rhodes' promo on Friday night about The Rock.
Yeah, the offer.
So that's not
right.
Fantasy
Okay, that's fine.
It's one of two that I've got in my head, but it's not the one I really want to happen.
Right.
So I'm gonna say
what
the two.
What I would love to see, right, is Cody turn on Jay. Is what I would love to see because it's the one turn you don't see coming.
That's true.
I would love to see that, but also at the same time, Logan turns on John, and Logan and Cody align with The Rock, because I think that just it's the only way I think to salvage this whole Rock involvement, because it's not weird, but it would help turn Cody heel because the crowd naturally dislike Logan, but it would also feed into that sort of corporate Rock type scenario where he's like, I'm handpicking the guy with 20 million followers and whatever else because that's the money. I think if Cody turns, Logan also has to turn. I don't think it makes sense for just Cody to turn, but it could make sense because I think if Cody turns, John also has to turn. So that's why I'm saying, like,
but I think if you're looking at turning Cody heel, there's not a more over guy than Jay.
Yes.
With the fans, with the fan base, I mean.
Yeah.
So there's not like a face.
If you want to turn Cody heel, have him come out and cost Stephanie Vaquer the Money in the Bank match.
Could you imagine?
Here's my uber completely unrealistic, mental, stupid fantasy booking. Right, this is never going to happen. But in my head, I just think it'd be class storytelling. Ross, you can tell me I'm stupid. This is where you're going to jump in, so you need to listen carefully because you need full critique on this. I want you to cast your mind back to how Hornswoggle won the Cruiserweight title. He snuck into the ring as
Thanks
the ref
for watching, everyone. See you later.
He snuck into the ring as the ref won the bell, which made him officially part of the match. Right?
Yes, I do remember that.
Right? If Rollins wins the briefcase, Braun and Bronson come out and kick the shit out of everybody, and Rollins declares he's cashing in on, let's say it's Jay. I just love it if somehow John's lying in the corner of the ring, gets up, hits Rollins with an AA, and pins him, and ends up as a double champ so Jay doesn't lose it. That's stupid Uber fantasy booking, but to me that's like just double down on the whole John Cena's ruining everybody's week thing.
I mean,
it's stupid. I know I don't hate it.
I don't hate it. It's mental. It's absolutely unhinged. But you might have a point.
It's like Prime Vince. It's Prime Vince McMahon, is what it is.
It kind of is, isn't it? It kind of is.
I don't want Rollins to win Money in the Bank, then win the title, and then just be protected. He doesn't need protected. He's the top
Ultimately,
3 in the business.
what we might have to say here is we said at the top of this segment that we didn't see the point in this match. I think we've kind of outlined over the last 10 minutes that the point is you can't work out the point of this match, and that in itself is the point of the match. You don't have a clue what's going to happen. You have all these possibilities.
Maybe the point of the match is the friends we made along the way.
Exactly. This match is here so that you look at the card and go, what the hell are they doing here? Where does this go? And the answer to that is, well, exactly. Because there's about 5 different things that they can do. The match is just a vehicle for like 3 other storylines that are going to kick off because of it.
But the problem is the 3 other storylines just need to get the fuck out the road and go be storylines. That's what's annoying me. But this whole thing.
The one thing
Maybe.
that sticks out to me is there's no other reason for Logan to be in this match because I can't see them running a long-term program with Jay. So Logan's in this match for a reason.
There's only 2 reasons he can be in the match. One is to be part of some sort of turn to either help somebody turn heel or do a dom and turn heel as a heel, or he's in there to eat a pin. That's it, really.
How often does he eat a pin on a PLE?
Every fucking month. But
On a PLE?
No, fair point.
Logan? I don't think Logan's ever ate the pin in a PLE.
Apart from Roman.
But are we counting Saudi as a PLE? But
no, aye. I'll go first with the predictions for this one, and then one of you two can put your hand up and go second. I'm not sitting in the fence. I'm making a prediction. I'm predicting this match ends in a no contest. I think there's either a double turn or an interference that causes the match to end. The only way I don't see that happening is if somehow Pierce or Aldis or somebody comes out and says, right, it's a no DQ type match, right? Which if that happens, fine. There's some no harm. It might sound boring. I just don't see a clean finish. And because of that, I'm going to go ahead and say that if we end up in a situation where the ref's down and Cena blasts under a title belt and pins it, I'm going to be raging. So I'm not picking that. I am going to predict a no contest. Does anybody want to jump in the back of that and take the other prediction?
I will give you it in 30 words or less. Logan pins Jay, Gunter interference. Thanks for coming. Logan pins Jay.
Easy.
Bold.
I like that because that is bold. I'm kind of reiterating the point I just made a few minutes ago. I have absolutely no clue. So I'm going to go completely against the grain here and all the things we've been saying, and I think that somehow this will end clean and Rhodes and Uso will win. And that what you're going to get and the fun and the intrigue is going to be after the bell. I think. That's my prediction, is the nonsense, the chaos.
Where is Travis Scott this weekend?
We probably should check where his private jet is, because that could be an issue.
Saunders has got him in like a sky scanner type scenario. We can watch the flights. He's got one specifically for you.
It does make you think if he's performing live anywhere within 300 miles, we may have a problem.
No, we might have some good news here. It looks as though he's actually performing this weekend in Reading.
That's quite far away.
What date is it? Oh, no, for some reason he's not. He's literally not performing from 2 weeks ago until August. His next show is Reading Leeds, but that's August.
And is that after SummerSlam by any chance?
Shit. Believe it or not, it's the fucking week of Clash in Paris that he's in the UK. Oh, no.
Right.
So he's available for SummerSlam in Paris.
Oh, yes.
So there we go, folks.
Some sweet fame.
No. We've just spoiled the next 2 months of wrestling.
Told you. No contest. This is one of the matches where if I decide to stay up and watch it and I'm somehow live or I'm on TikTok, I will probably update after the Money in the Bank. Because I think if Seth wins the Money in the Bank because he's not been cost it, I think he comes out and he gets potentially costed the chance of a cash in. If Seth wins the Money in the Bank, have we seen an attempted cash in, do you think, in that tag match? Because he's got double champs to go after. Like, he has multiple options. It's a prime time.
Is there even a situation where he pins them both? You've thought about that?
Does he need to pin both of them? If they're both in the ring, he can cash. I mean,
Yeah, but no. But
could
in
he-
theory,
could he-
could
could
you
he- could
lay
he-
one body over the other and pin the both of them and win both titles?
Well, here's
He
one for you.
he can't
Could
win.
you use it as a?
He
you
can't
guys-
cash in on Jay because Gunther's booked in a title match on Monday, so he can't pin Jay.
Well, unless
Good-
as
so
your
Gunther-
best pal Dave Meltzer says all the time, does
Fuck Dave Meltzer.
plans change?
But do plans change? Let's go back to my absolute crackpot booking idea of double champs. Rollins cashed in on Jay. Logan's still in the ring because Gunther says, "I will face the winner of Jay and Logan on Monday night." That's what he said. That's how he put it. If Logan walks out as champion, because it ends up as some sort of fucked up triple threat.
I mean, ultimate levels of heat for Logan as if he didn't already have it, but then you've got to then he's got to then pin Gunther. So, he's got to beat Gunther rather, because you can't put the belt on him in such a spectacular way to have him drop it 2 nights later.
Yeah, done it to Christian, didn't they? 2009.
Yeah, but Christian deserved it. Christian's not Logan Paul.
I mean, they've had short title reigns before. I believe John Cena, one of his title reigns
just
lasted
not
for
the-
like 6 minutes or something.
Not
so-
the TKO model, the short title reign. It's not a thing.
It's not a
I
triple
agree.
H thing at all, is it?
So you would never expect it.
Right, so basically we've just decided to go after being in complete agreement with each other and Backlash pretty much. We've decided to go for complete fucking chaos this Saturday and say that we're basically hoping that we at least get a couple of relatively clean endings to matches, because there is a risk again here that we have returns and people coming back, and this ends up being a vehicle for SummerSlam when actually it's a big five and it really should have big five-esque finishes.
Yeah, it should.
Closing points. Should one of the world titles be defended here? We have 4 world titles and none of them are on the card. Does it feel right?
Yes. No.
It doesn't feel
Yes,
right.
it should be on the card. No.
Yeah, it should be on the card. The card doesn't feel right.
Aye.
It's just wrong.
And I mean, it means that there's basically guaranteed no women's cash in.
I think
Can't
so.
happen.
I think we've written that off, haven't we?
Unless...
There's a 5th match added on Friday night.
No, not even. Unless somebody fancies cashing in on Becky for the mid-card title.
Well, that's interesting. I
It's so
haven't
stupid.
even
It's
thought
it's
about that.
stupid not
See-
to have at least one women's world champion on the
See-
card. It's silly.
See, if that happens, the Money in the Bank concept has the Golden Shovel Award for the year when we do the end of the year awards. It gets it, like, because I'm already struggling with it because of this whole thing of they seem to want to get one out the way quickly, and then the other one seems to be fuck, we better do something with it.
I just feel like we've been robbed of having EO on the card, if I'm honest.
Especially
although I
with
do still believe
Liv's
that-
return.
Sorry?
Especially with Liv's return, there's a match there.
Mm.
Yeah,
Io
aye.
versus Liv is there. It could have been on the card and everybody would have gone, that's match of the night potentially.
Yeah.
And that's probably not going to happen because I don't think they would add that. I'm still.
Sorry, they'll give us something
quietly-
really exciting like Nia and Tiffany or something on Friday night.
Just give us Street Profits, Fraxium, DIY, and everybody else is in the tag division on SmackDown. Just put them on a ladder match and
I would watch
put them
that.
on a ladder match and see what happens. I think the closing thoughts for this week's PLE is that all 4 matches have the potential to be show stealers, both in ring and storytelling wise. We also have the potential for 4 relative stinkers if the booking in the match doesn't feel right. But we've got a bit of discussion next week, and we will really need to figure out how to do a weekly podcast with however many shows are on this week. I'm going to assume we need to skip Worlds Collide because it's just going to be too much for us trying to learn
I think
the
that's
Triple A
fair.
guys. So with that being said, we will be back next week, hopefully at the usual Wednesday night, 5 p.m.
Return to
slot
regular scheduled programming.
with the output fallout from Money in the Bank and a look ahead to hopefully a clearer picture as we head towards SummerSlam. So signing off with a slightly delayed weekly podcast from Daz,
Peace.
Roscoe.
Hopefully, you will see this one and you'll enjoy it as much as we have.
And from myself, take it easy and we'll catch you guys next week.